We can tell by the images, like the ones you're seeing here. Many Americans are excited to get back to the pre-COVID normal, but not everyone. Here's what some think of the big reopenings, as told to the New York Times.
As things start to open up, I feel
States reopen, crowded scenes.
Every bar in New York City is going to feel like St. Patrick's Day fell on Cinco de Mayo. You know what I'm saying?
And you can shake hands and even give each other a hug.
And if they had to choose one word to describe how they feel, that word would be the one you see right there, dread. Joining us now, Emily Ladau. You saw her in that video. She is a disability rights activist from New York. Emily, good to have you with us. This was really a powerful video. I recommend it to everyone. It was about 6 minutes long, but I thought that word dread was incredibly powerful and seemed fitting here. I mean, for you, what invokes the strongest feeling of dread when you think of that pre-COVID normal?
Thank you so much for having me. And I just want to be clear that when I'm talking about dread, it's not that I'm not excited to be able to get back out into the world along with everybody else. But what you can't see on the screen is that I am a wheelchair user. I'm 1 in 4 American adults who has a physical disability. And because of that, I'm incredibly concerned about returning to what we consider to be normal. I want to return to better. I want to return to a world that is more inclusive, more accommodating, and more accessible. But right now, I don't feel like that's the direction that we're headed in.
Like many, you worked at home during the lockdown. That meant you could avoid some challenges you typically faced when you had to go to work or to other places before the pandemic. I mean, help us understand, how did life, especially your work life, change during the pandemic?
Right. So for me, to be quite honest, work didn't really change at all. I had been working from home as an accommodation for my disability since I graduated college in 2013. And when everybody else needed to suddenly switch over to working from home, it became something that we did overnight because we had no choice. So now we know that we can do it. We know that a virtual working world is possible. And it doesn't just work for people with disabilities. It works for people who are caring for children, who are caring for ill family members. Virtual worlds are better for everybody. And I have been advocating for this along with the disability community for years. And I think finally we have caught on. So my sense of dread really comes from concern that we may again move away from what's made the world so accessible during the pandemic and back into a world that's no longer virtual.
When you talk about returning to better, not just returning to normal, I mean, when it comes to work, to travel, to getting around cities, what are the challenges you think are fixable but need to be addressed? How can we be better?
I think that's a great question. And it's really important to understand something called the curb cut effect. Curb cuts work for everybody, whether you are using roller skates, whether you have luggage, whether you're a wheelchair user or a parent with a stroller. Curb cuts work for everybody. But not everybody can get up a curb. What I'm asking for, and what so many people in the disability community are asking for, is essentially virtual curb cuts, allowing virtual opportunities to stay open to people so that people who are not able to easily travel because of accessibility issues, maybe transportation is an issue, maybe they need telemedicine, whatever the case may be, ensure that those virtual curb cuts remain there so that everybody has equal opportunities to participate as we return to this new normal or this better world ahead of us.
You know, President Biden campaigned on building back better. The infrastructure bill is making headlines daily. Do you think policymakers right now are doing enough or bringing up enough issues to address disabilities and accessibility? Where should their focus be?
I'm glad you asked that question. And I think that there are certain policymakers who are prioritizing more accessible infrastructure. For example, Tammy Duckworth is really focusing on creating a better and more accessible and more inclusive public transportation system. I'm a New York resident. New York City transportation is a nightmare. It was a nightmare before the pandemic. It's going to be even worse now because of budgetary concerns. So I absolutely think that when we're thinking thinking about infrastructure, policymakers need to remember that we need to build back better because these systems were not accessible before the pandemic. And I know that we're in a budget crunch now, but if we're not focusing on making infrastructure accessible moving forward, it's only going to be to the detriment of everybody.
Emily Ladau, such an important conversation to have. We appreciate you taking some time on this holiday to join us and talk about it. Have a good 4th.
Thank you. You too.
Celebrating the 4th with a new sense of freedom. Next.